Hello, I'm Dr. Geoff Hurd, Project Manager for Australia's Threatened Species Index, or TSX. The TSX is a tool that tracks the abundance of Australia's threatened and near-threatened species using monitoring data from right across the country. Today, I'm going to run you through how to use our Visualiser tool to assess trends for different species groups and different jurisdictions, and how to access the underlying data. You can access the TSX Visualiser tool at www.tsx.org.au. Okay, if you head to www.tsx.org.au, you'll see our main page, and from there, click on View the Index and TSX Data Visualiser. There are four main panels on the TSX Visualiser tool. In the top left, you can see the trend plot, which plots an index of abundance through time. The index is set to 1 for the reference year of your choosing, meaning the trend estimates below 1 are declining abundance and estimates above 1 are increasing abundance. The index is proportional, in which case a value of, say, 0.5 on the y-axis means a decline of 50% from abundance in the reference year, whereas a value of 1.5, say, means a 50% increase in abundance from that year. The blue line is the mean estimate across species, and the grey shading provides a 95% confidence interval across species. In the top right, you can see a map that gives an insight into the spatial representativeness of the data upon which the trend is built. It shows the locations of all the monitoring datasets that are included. You can see that across all species groups, our data for arid areas of the continent is currently sparse, given the relatively limited monitoring that occurs in these areas. On the bottom left is a graph that shows monitoring consistency through time. Each row is a site, with dots showing the years in which surveys were completed. Here you can see that data is sparse before 1995. On the bottom right is a graph that shows how many monitoring datasets and species are included each year. You can see that there is a rapid drop in the number of datasets and species closer to the current date, which results from the lag in data flowing through to the index. This is the reason why the TSX only publishes data up to 3 years prior to the current year, as the trends close to the current year are less reliable. Let's now look at the criteria by which you can subset the index. On opening the TSX Visualiser tool, the default is to show you the trends across all species in the index. However, you can subset this using the drop-down lists on the left-hand side of the page. First, you can filter by species group, selecting from the 3 groups currently in the index: birds, mammals, or plants. Let's select birds as an example. You can see that the panel updates with each selection. Second, you can filter by group within the species group. For birds, we have 3 choices. Let's select terrestrial birds as an example. Third, you can filter by subgroup. We have 2 choices for terrestrial birds. Let's select birds from dry sclerophyll woodlands. Fourth, you can filter by state or territory. Let's select Victoria as an example. Fifth, you can filter by status authority, which simply filters the species by whether they are listed under the Commonwealth EPBC Act or listed on the IUCN Red List. I'm just going to stick with max authority. Sixth, you can filter by status, selecting only those species listed as threatened, those listed as threatened or considered near threatened, or only those considered near threatened. Let's select threatened species only. Finally, you can filter by reference year, choosing 1985, 1990, 1995, or 2000. If we choose 1985, you can see that for some reference years and species filters, the data are too sparse to create an index, as shown in the trend panel. There are simply too few datasets to create a reliable index. To see what species and data underlie the trends you have generated, you can use the Data Summary button. 4 headline statistics are provided: time series length, and that's the average and standard deviation; the number of samples or years per time series, mean and standard deviation; the number of data sources in the index; and the number of taxa in the index. And then for each species that's in the index, separate information on the data for them is also provided. Lastly, you can download the actual data used to generate the index you have selected using the Download CSV button. Hitting this button will result in a download of a zip folder that contains a CSV file containing the time series data for each site included in the index. Note, however, that some data are not provided as they are sensitive, such as the individuals who completed the monitoring and the exact location at which the monitoring took place. Nevertheless, extensive information is provided for each time series, as we seek to make the information used to calculate the trends as open and available as possible. Okay, so that's a quick summary of the TSX Visualiser tool. If you'd like more information about the TSX, please visit our website or get in touch via email. And lastly, if you have any monitoring data that you think could be used in the TSX, we'd really love to hear from you. Please get in touch.